So about me, my name is Tia Savannah Goosby Plummer, and I am a yes, I'm a wife, I'm a mother of three, I'm an author and an entrepreneur. So I have a travel coach business where I help women relocate abroad with their families.
Oh, okay.
I've been traveling for about 6+ years now, and I've lived in 3 different countries.
That's amazing.
I speak languages. Yes, I speak Spanish. Currently, my home, where we have been for 2 years.
Okay.
And I have a bachelor's degree in digital media production. So I have a
Right.
media background, a tech, like a tier 1 tech background.
Yeah.
And right now, again, I am promoting my book, Merida and Me, and also my
That's
travel coach business.
all right. That's a handful of introduction.
Yeah, I'll
Right.
say.
So yeah, we are going to dissect each one of them one after the other, right? So
Okay.
let's start from when you were a solo traveler before the family came in and all, right? So in your written interview, some of your responses, I came across you traveling some countries in the Southern American continent. So I would like to know how that was like.
Yeah, traveling has been such a rewarding and rich experience for me.
Right.
First, as a solo traveler, I
Mm-hmm.
first ventured out to Bogota, Colombia in
Mm-hmm.
2016, and
Right.
I decided to become certified to teach English. So I have a TOEFL certificate, and I teach English as a second language. I had the
Okay.
opportunity to teach with a company called Berlitz in
Okay.
Bogota, Colombia, where I lived in Bogota for a year teaching English. And at that time, I was traveling by myself. I wasn't married,
Mm.
I wasn't dating, and I didn't have any children. So
Yeah.
I went over to Colombia just free as a bird. I
All
had
right.
an amazing, yes, while living there, I was able to travel around the country. I went to Carnival in Barranquilla. Like it was such an amazing experience to see folks assume that I was Colombian because of my level of Spanish. And there's so
Yeah.
many Colombians of all colors. Like I blended in with locals, even though my skin is much darker. And there's an island
Right.
that's very popular. It's called Choco. And a lot
Okay.
of the Afro Colombians or just like a really richly heavily melanated Colombians are there. So most people would assume that I was from Choco, but I was like, no,
Oh.
I'm from America. And funny thing, being an American abroad, I don't know what it's like as a male abroad, but as a woman
Okay.
in a country like Colombia, I got so many marriage proposals. I had never had any marriage proposals in my own country until I went to Colombia.
Right. The
So
American
many
spirit.
men would they would oh, I didn't know it was this popular. Oh, because but it was such an amazing experience. I met some friends who I still contact today. We're still really great friends. They're also teachers as
Right.
well. I haven't gone back yet, but I do plan to, like in the near future, to take my husband and my kids. And
Oh.
of course, I want to explore a little bit more
Mhm.
about Colombia as well. There's one place I didn't get to go that I wanted to go, and it's called
Okay.
Palenque, and it was one of
Uh-huh.
the free. Yeah, it was one of the first freed areas in Colombia for enslaved Africans. So I didn't get a chance to go visit there, but I would like to the next time that I go back. So
Sounds
that
like a
was
lot
my
of places.
experience in. Mhm.
Yeah. All right. So a little bit about your tech experience. You said you quit your job to take up teaching English language.
Yeah.
What that let me say the catch for you? What made you make that decision?
Well, I started out with this company in Atlanta, Georgia. So I have
Okay.
a bachelor's degree in digital media production. And fresh out of college, like everyone looking for work. And I landed a
Yeah.
job with a company. Um, And it was a great opportunity. It allowed me to get my foot in the door in my field because I knew I wanted to be in live TV. I wanted to be in news. I wasn't a journalist, but I was on the more back end side of like making things happen behind the scenes. And I loved it. And I had gotten to a point where, well, first I started out as an apprentice.
Okay.
And then from the apprenticeship, I moved on up. And within a 6-year period, I had became one of the assistant managers over the technical operations department. And it was amazing. But I wanted something more fulfilling. And I kept applying for positions, and I felt as though I was capped at a certain level, and that wasn't satisfying enough for me. So I'm like, you know what? I want something more than this. Like, I don't see myself retiring with this company or investing more time with this particular company. So I started researching how I could travel the world. My sister was living in Dubai, and she's also African American. But she was living in Dubai, so I got an opportunity to meet with her one night. We were at a party, and she told me how much she loved Dubai. And I'm like, how did you get there? Like, how?
Yeah.
And she was like, I teach English. I got a certificate to teach second language. I was like, show me how. Show me how. And she did. I got certified in like, it was like an 11-week program, I believe. And then that same, I took the course, the 11-week course. I think I finished my course by like August, and then by September I had job offers to leave the country and go, and I chose Colombia. The church that I was attending, it was a Christian church. So while I was living in Colombia, we would have conferences. Religious group here in Bogota, I felt more comfortable. And my church also helped me get signed up with the sister church in Bogota. They set me up with like a spiritual leader, like we went to Bible study and things like that. And it was really amazing. So that was just my foot in the door. I said sayonara to my...
Well, I've tried to dodge, the whole sort of academia, but I think I'm now beginning to like it. I mean, it's more of let me say a growing everyday experience. The interaction and all. It's just something that it's quite refreshing to engage with people and watch them grow somehow. So yeah, I mean, I give it to you on that.
Absolutely. And I dedicated 6 years. I mean, I went to school for 4 years, and then outside of that, I dedicated 6 years to the field, and I felt that was enough. And like I said, it felt to me as if I was capped at my growth with that particular company. So I decided to try something else. My family thought I was crazy. They're like, you went to school, you have this degree. And I'm like, I'll do something else now.
Yeah. All right. So, transitioning from, being a solo traveler to the whole aspect of switching your jobs and coming to, live in a different country on a job and starting a family, how would you say, the whole transition was like? I mean, it sounds like something that happened, in a short time of space that you didn't really even have time to, let me say, taking all the changes that come. How did it, like, how did you cope with that?
In me, I'm a Sagittarius. I'm born in November, so I'm big on that. And if the traveler is the type of person, like I would be classified as one of those digital nomads. Anything that entices me, any country that entices me, I'm like, let's go here and figure this out. Let's see how it works. And fear in that regard, I love people. I love meeting people. I love hearing people's story, learning about their culture, sharing mine. And because I have a passion for that, it's easy for me to just get up and go. It's easy for me to go to another place and meet someone new. Like when we first moved to Mexico, we lived in an apartment in a place called Montes de Amey. But now we're in a house and we're in Las Americas. We went down the street, and of course we stand out because of our skin. So it's me, my husband, our $3, and I'm pushing the street. Anybody who's outside, I'm like, hola, ¿cómo estás? Me llamo Taya. Like, hi, like, what's your name? fly together and I'm out with people. They're so curious to speak with me, but they're apprehensive because they don't know if I speak the language. And once I start speaking Spanish, they open up more and they tell all their friends, they're like, oh, she speaks Spanish. Because every time I am out with my children and someone sees us and one person talks to us and I'm speaking, I'm like, how did you learn the language? Oh, I love your skin. Oh, your daughters are beautiful. The Sagittarius in me, the traveler in me, that is just natural to me. It comes easy to me.
Oh, okay. That's I mean, I mean, thankful to be, that is something to be thankful for, you.
Thank you.
Right, yeah. So, let's talk a little bit about, being a mother, right?
Yeah.
I also believe somehow, just looking at it from the outside view, that it has somehow, restricted the traveler in you for, let me say, a while. But would you say, like now you are somehow a little bit mobile than, when it all started, or somehow you are still, in the period of focusing on being a mother and a job as well?
Absolutely. Both of us traveling. We met abroad. We met in Taiwan, of all places, and he's from Cleveland, and I'm from.
Okay.
Our children or our anything stop us from living our dream of traveling abroad. I would say I still have a strong desire to keep traveling with my children, but I do look at things a bit differently. So when we decided on Merida, we were first in the States. We went back to the States and we were there. The pandemic happened. We were like, oh, we have to get out of here. But we have children. So now we were looking at, okay, what are the hospitals looking like? What does the insurance look like? What do the schools look like? What is safety? So our mindset and our perspectives were different as opposed to when I moved to Colombia, when I went to Taiwan, I was like, who has the highest salary? I'm going. Like there was no other, I guess, requisite for me. I'm like, who offers the best package? Who offers accommodation? Who's going to pay insurance? Who's going to pay my visa? Who's going to pay my housing? That's what I went with. But now with my family, it's a little bit different. I'm like, medical is important because our kids are young and we are pro vaccinations. So I'm like, okay, whose medical system is equivalent or on par with the US? What do the schools look like? Are there homeschooling? Are there public school, private schooling? How is it safe? Because of course our children are melanated and I wanted them to have an experience that wasn't that was unique, but wasn't one that they would kind of be singled out every time. So that was important to me. So those different factors as a mother are now my priority as opposed to being a solo traveler when it was mainly just salary, finances, and having a good time.
Oh, right.
When you're obviously when you're a parent, your priorities change.
Real for sure. Yeah, it's just it's in the DNA, right? So that being said, but do you see yourself doing more family travels anytime soon?
Well, my husband and I, we decided that, okay, we want a place where we can put down roots or what we call a base. We want an area where it will be our base where we travel from. And we know in the US, so we're definitely considering to travel. Like we want to go to Tanzania and do a year there. So we would have our home here in Mexico and then go to Tanzania, stay there for a year, and then come back to Mexico and then maybe go to, I don't know, Peru or something like that, and then go there for a little bit. But we have decided, okay, yes, we have children. We need to have some sort of stability. We still want to travel, so we'll have at least a base and we'll travel to and from and travel as opposed to being in our country, the US, and traveling from there.
I'm just curious for a bit. Have you, done any African country where you had the luxury of traveling anytime and anywhere you wanted?
Not yet. Actually, it's so crazy because I want to. It is on my list. And before my husband and I had our first child, we were in Taiwan, and I was like, hey, it's nice to meet you, but I'm about to go to Ghana real quick. I'm out. And then we found out we were pregnant. And I was like, oh
Oh,
no, staying in Taiwan. But
right.
we haven't done it yet. But once we are just, it's in the works. It's definitely in the works. Like I said, there are some places that I'm really interested in. Tanzania is number one, the Gambia is number two, and
Right.
then Ghana is the third one on my list. So I know that, like, talking to Christina and things
Yeah.
like that, I want to plan a trip over to the continent. Have to. In 2024, it's me and the continent.
Yeah. They're preparing your year of return specially. So take your time and do it right. Yeah. So
I'm enjoying
so,
your advice.
right. Let's talk a little bit about your entrepreneurship. You mentioned that you help families start up abroad, and I'm sort of curious about that.
Okay.
And I mean the whole COVID thing came to redefine our perspective of work and life. And you find, like you
Yeah.
said, you've been a digital nomad yourself, that a lot of people are so comfortable with the idea of having to travel and work from anywhere, because the world is not adapted to that environment of working and living. So how did it come about for you to start out your own uh, let me say enterprise on traveling and helping families set up?
That's a good question, because I didn't start out thinking, oh, this is what I want to do. It just was bestowed upon me by others, because I
Right.
have been traveling, and because I would rave about my experience being abroad, both as a solo traveler and as a mom traveling
Mm-hmm.
with kids. A situation where you could be over here in Mexico with a nanny and a personal chef and a housekeeper. Like, why are you still struggling over there?
Yeah.
Me just giving my testimony to other people. And I've had people reach out to me like, like, I'm tired. I'm so tired of living in the US. But lacking the how will always keep you in the same place. It will keep you
Right.
stagnant. And
Right.
because I had it so many times, it was easy for me. And my husband is like, well, Taya, what's easy for you? It's difficult for other people. I'm like, so easy. All you have to do is. So we kind of link up and do activities for our
Mm.
kids. And one day I
Yeah.
posted, I'm leaving the country. I'm going to Merida, Mexico.
Right.
This lady, she DM'd me and she was like, how did you move to Mexico? Tell me what it's
Mm.
like. Tell me what you did. I told her everything that I did. I didn't charge her,
Mm.
because at the time I was like, oh, I'm just telling you how to do this.
Yeah.
And do you know, within 6 months, she relocated to Mexico.
Mm.
She called me. We met up. I met her husband. She met my. We are still friends. And she's like, I thought
Right.
it was so time that you mentioned that you were moving, and I was ready to move. And that was
Mm-hmm.
one of my, like, first opportunities to help someone. Then I just started talking to other people, and they're like, oh, you did? The lady who was a single mom, and she's like, hey, I'm struggling to get, my daughter's passport, because my vacation
Mm-hmm.
and getting her overseas as well. And a lot of my cousins, and then one of my is like, you're really good at me, and it talks about my experience traveling as a mom. And within the book, but basically what I do is I tell you how to relocate abroad children. I tell, like,
Right.
hey, that sounds good and dandy, but girl, I hold my hand along the way. Then that's what I do. So I have
Uh-huh.
a complimentary consultation. It's about 25 minutes to like 30 minutes to
Okay.
leave your country wherever you are. And then we do a one-on-one coaching, which is more in-depth accommodations. We look at employment options. So we do so much to make sure that you get abroad. And my very
Right.
first step that I tell everyone is to get a passport. passport. Like you can't talk
Mhm.
to me if you don't have a passport. Like that's the first
Yeah,
thing.
that's a
Like
commitment.
we want to take back, you need to get your
So,
passport. And in me, I talk about getting your passport, ways to get the passport, and how I can help you. So that's how it started.
oh, I mean, some say the unplanned stuffs are the best, right?
Yes.
Uh, so we'll come to the book in a minute. Because like I said, I'm a blogger for Melanin Travels Magic, and we're enthusiastic about
Yes.
writing myself. So yeah, we'll talk about that, in a little bit.
Mhm.
So let me say, coming to the point of helping people, let me say, relocate abroad, right? How has that experience been like? It must be uplifting to see that somehow you help someone open their eyes to possibilities elsewhere, right? So how does it feel to get people to really come to the point of helping them start a new life abroad?
Yes, like you said, it is extremely uplifting to be able
Mhm.
to hear someone's situation and be able to provide a solution. And
Right.
when I say situation, I'm referring to being in your country, being fed up and ready to live life. Like I felt
Yeah.
like great life in the States, but it wasn't until I relocated abroad that I started to truly live my life. Like the first time I ever had a housekeeper was in Colombia. And
Mm-hmm.
even still, I was helping my housekeeper. It was so foreign to me to
Right.
have. I'm helping her clean up, and she's like, "I got this." And I'm like, but just being able to have those type of luxuries and
Right.
appreciate the services of others that you can,
Mm.
that you can utilize. Like even
Right.
here in Merida, I would have never been able to afford a full-time nanny and a housekeeper in the United States. It's just because of where we were in our tax
Right.
bracket, it wasn't affordable to me. And I know that because I've had the experience of having
Mm-hmm.
it here in Mexico, that there's other people who could benefit from it as well.
Right.
My daughter is 5 years old and she can introduce herself in Spanish completely.
Woo.
She can tell you her name, her age, where she's from. She can tell you if you want to play with her. She can tell you her favorite colors. Like, and she can do that in Spanish and she knows
Right.
what's saying. And with us in the States, I don't think we would have been able to have that
Mm-hmm.
experience as we've had it here. And I know other mothers who are either depleted, who are exhausted, who are
Yeah.
lonely, who are unfulfilled in motherhood. And I'm not saying that relocating abroad is an end all be all,
Yeah.
but it is an opportunity do something different, for you to experience life differently. Being in the
Mm.
States, we live life really fast. Like life
Right.
is fast. But in my experience living abroad, life has been much slower for me. Being able to take time, take my children to the park at night. So here in Mexico, it's hot. At night, around like 6:30, o'clock, the park gets lit and the families come out. So it's not just like kids playing by themselves, it's
Mm-hmm.
families who take their kids to the park or walk their dogs to the park. And you haven't been able to do that in the States.
Right.
As freely as I can do it here. And I know so many other people who can benefit from these type
Right.
of things. So being able to offer a service to say, hey, I know you have the desire, but you don't have the know-how, and I don't mind helping you because this is easy for me. I want to help you along the way for you to achieve your dreams of living your life to the fullest, whatever that looks like in whatever
Right.
country that you desire. But I am able to help women with children or even single moms, but especially women with children, relocate abroad. I help you find accommodations. Like when you first arrive, if you need rides from the taxi or a ride from the airport, when you pay other women that I did a consultation that would look like abroad. And I'm like, I can offer many services and resources to you to find your tribe abroad and find locate abroad.
Right. So one area I'm usually curious about is the whole concept of misconceptions and coming to live your reality. So while in the States, were there, let me say, any reasons to hold back due to some of the stories you heard or, the media stories you read about Mexico that made you somehow like second guess your whole, let me say, idea of relocating and coming to live a reality? Would you say there are some, misconceptions that people hold about Mexico in the States and I mean elsewhere as well?
Absolutely. And I know my opinion. I think that misconceptions that people may have from the United States or Americans' misperceptions of
Mm,
countries comes from people who have never left the United States.
right.
They've never even left their city, so they have these this ignorant view on what
Right.
it's like to be abroad. America has this perception that it is the land of opportunity, that is the best
Mm,
country in the world. And there's some great parts of the
right.
US, but once you travel, you understand that there's beauty in every country. There's so
Yeah.
many things in other countries. And if you are self-aware, if you're aware of your surroundings, aware of your behaviors while you're out in public, you could reduce the victimhood of being targeted by crime. And that can be either in the US or Mexico, because there's some places that are in the US that are just as dangerous as Mexico or just as dangerous as Colombia. But there's also some beautiful places in all those countries as well. And I think those misconceptions come from people who are either afraid or who just refuse to see
Mm,
anything different than what they've been programmed to believe.
right. Right. Uh, I mean, beautifully put, right? You make me really want to, do Mexico, though, I've not started my traveling career
Mm-hmm.
yet.
Yeah, I mean, because New Mexico is a part of the US, but
Yeah.
actually Mexico is a completely different country. And a lot of
Mhm.
people, because Mexico borders the US, and a lot
Mm,
of the border states are quite dangerous.
yeah.
But again, like I said, I think it's important to research wherever you decide to go. And that's where I come in. I help people with the research so that we can narrow down where country you're going to be and how safe
Mm,
it is. For
right.
example, we're in Merida, and Merida is one of the safest places or one of the safest countries to live in. And I researched that and found that out. I didn't have that previous
Yeah.
knowledge. I researched it and found that it's a safe place to, live and to raise children.
Mm, right. So, that being said, we are, drifting a little bit into the space of you being an author. You've written a book, Merida and Me, and I'm guessing, you know, you've been doing writing for a while before, you came to settle on the idea of
Oh,
writing a book.
yes.
So yeah, I want to know, the story behind you writing and coming to write a book as well.
Oh, okay. Yes, I understand. I've actually been writing for quite some time. I used to write a lot when I was in
Mhm.
my teenage years. I spent a
Right.
lot of time on punishment, and all I could do was write. So I ended up writing a lot, and I
Right.
uh, up with books, stacks of like notebooks of just like stories and or letters or poems and things that I had written to myself.
Right.
And I know that just being abroad, a lot of people like the literature form
Yeah.
of like taking in information. And my
Mm.
husband is like, oh, you should write a book about that. You have so many ideas. And my husband calls me a busybody because I always have an, and as soon as it pops in my head, I'm
Right.
like in Canva and creating something. And there's a whole like every idea that I have, it has like a website, it has a business account, a business cards, it has everything. So with
Yeah.
me writing, my husband was like, why don't you turn that into a book? And I'm like, oh no, these are just my thoughts that I had that I wanted to just. So I was like, well, are you going to proofread it for me? Are you going to help me with work? And he's like, yeah, awesome. In 2021, I did a rough draft. That's
Mm.
when I wrote it. And then I sent it to my
Oh.
husband, and he's like, oh, this is kind of good. I'm like, really? Kind of, just my thoughts are jumping all around everywhere. He's like, no, it's actually really good. So after he read it for me and gave me some pointers, and I
Mm.
looked at it again, did a couple more drafts. and we read it a final time, and he was like, I think this is good. This is the start of your you being an author and
Oh,
inspiring other women, inspiring other mothers to travel abroad. And I was like,
right.
I can add author to my title, and
Of
I
course.
appreciate it.
uh, I mean, it's really fascinating to write. I remember actually, I also started writing when I was in basic school. I was given
Yeah.
this assignment to write a poem each when we started reading literature. So, I came home, then I tried to write a poem. Actually, I tried to write a song. Then
Uh-huh.
I tried singing and my voice discouraged me. So I was like, let me put this on. You will suck at it. So, I just literally just tried to write a poem. Then, yeah, it worked. The coming week, I found that, I was in the same space again trying to write something. Then on and on, it's like the ideas keep coming in. I'm still somehow working on also producing a collection of poems, but you know,
Okay.
here in Africa is quite a whole lot to deal with. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I hope to join the space of being called an author real soon.
Well, I want to hear some of your poems, Francis. I want to
Okay,
hear some.
I'll definitely share some with you after this. Right,
Okay.
right. Yeah. So let's talk about your daughters a little bit. I'm curious.
Okay.
Yeah.
All their names start with the J.
Right,
So they're just be one on September 23rd.
right.
First relocated to Merida. It was just Journey and Jada.
Okay.
And they're actually doing really great. So they are, like I said, my oldest daughter, she's great at using her Spanish to introduce herself. My 3-year-old, it's kind of a struggle for her right now.
Mm-hmm.
So she's really shy when it comes to learning the language, but very, very high energy when it comes to friends and playing on the playground. She doesn't utilize her Spanish as much. She's just like tapping on someone is like, you wanna, and then they just kind of like run. Whereas my
Right.
oldest daughter, she's like, conmigo, me llamo Journey. Like she was saying, it's so
Right.
cute, Francis, because she has like a little accent that she does, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know if she gets the accent from like the kids in school or she gets it from me, but her accent when she speaks is so cute when she's speaking Spanish. She's like, me llamo Journey, Journey.
Oh, I guess it's an improved version of you.
Yes, I guess so.
Okay. I mean, kids are quite fun. I like to
Yeah.
interact with kids every now and then. Um, so come to think of traveling, right? I've spoken with quite a number of friends over Zoom and
Yeah.
in person, and there's this conception of travel is expensive that people have, But I mean, if you put that vis-a-vis interest like fashion and technology trends, then any other sort of party, clubbing stuff like that, then somehow people tend to put it on the same level. I mean, it's just me directing my energy elsewhere. So how do you perceive travel, or how do you help people rethink this idea of traveling is expensive?
Well, that's part of one of the services that I offer is helping with budgeting. Yes, anything can be expensive. Living day to day in the US is quite expensive, okay? But anything
Uh,
is possible with the right budget. So
so,
when we first relocated to Mexico, we
mm,
just had savings and one income, and we were determined to live abroad. We were like, we don't know how this is going to work. We know the cost of living in Mexico is cheaper than
mm,
the US, and our money can stretch longer.
mm,
So we decided to come here and we did have a little bit of savings. But for
right.
those people who don't have savings,
Mm,
the easiest way to travel abroad on a budget is to be sponsored by an ESL company. So finding a
okay.
company that is going to provide you with a travel package or a family package. And there are
Mm,
several companies out there who will provide you with a family package. They will help you. They will pay for your flights. They'll pay for accommodation and your visas. And that's part of the services that I offer to help you narrow down and locate
mm,
those companies.
right.
So if you don't have the budget, if you don't have a savings to relocate, you should also consider, okay, maybe I should start teaching English because this company will sponsor my visa, or they'll
Right.
pay for housing, or they'll pay for flights, whatever the perks may be. And we can find those out together. So yes, traveling can be expensive, but there's ways around it. There's so many ways around it. Again, for example, here in Merida, when we want to travel to the US, Merida has an airport. It's a small airport, but they have an airport. And
Right.
since the pandemic, Merida has become very popular because it's beautiful here. The people are very kind, the food is nice, and it's just a beautiful, but now it is expensive to leave from Merida to go to the US. Cancun, on the other hand, is a 4-hour drive away. So
Yeah.
what my family does is we take the bus. It's a nice bus. It's like a fancy, like luxury bus, if you will. It's called
Right.
the ADO bus. Take it from Merida. We take it to Cancun, and we probably pay for all 5 of us like $40. And we take the flight from Cancun to US. So
Oh,
for
okay.
example, we went to US this June, and I paid $498 round trip from
Oh.
Mexico to the US. If I would
Mm-hmm.
have flown from Merida
Mm.
to the US, it would have been $2,500, right? So you can see where the budgeting comes into place, and just
Sure.
knowing
Sure.
how to look at your other options. So yes, travel can be expensive, but there's ways around it, and I can help. Those are some of the services that I provide with helping with budgeting.
Right. Right. I think people generally really have to, learn budgeting and financial management aside, whatever they may learn in school. It's really important.
Yes,
I
just
mean, having to pay 498 against 2500 it's really, something that is,
yes, absolutely.
you know, right. So, I'm quite curious. How do you find a balance, between being a mom, being an author, and being a wife, and still being a teacher? Like, how do you find a balance? I mean, here you are, a weekend, you're able to make time for this interview. Like, how do you find a balance?
Well, it's because I try to delegate as much as I can,
Mm,
and I do have help. It is difficult. It is
mm,
actually very difficult, but I do have help. I have help from friends. I have help from like my nanny. I have help from my husband as well to help me to make things possible. It's all about your time management and not being afraid to ask for help. And I used to be
sure.
very afraid to ask for help,
Yeah,
especially with being abroad and not having
yeah.
like your mom or your dad or your sisters or brothers to help you, but having
Mm,
strangers per se to help you
mm,
out. Like, so some of my friends, I needed to have a day where I planned, like I had so much going on, and I called my friend. I'm like, hey, I really need your help. Are you able to watch my girls for me? And she was like, yes, I'll come get your daughters and I'll take them to the beach. You take the
mm,
time that you need. And I was like,
yeah.
you are a lifesaver. Thank you so much. And she got my
Right.
girls. She took them to the beach. I was able to do my planning because I had a big event coming up, and I needed to focus on it. And she was able to help me with that. So I would say just being able to ask for help. Being
Mm,
abroad, I was able to find my tribe, find a group of people who fit me, who understand me, and who we wanted to build together.
mm.
He turned 3 on June 7th, and we were
Yeah.
getting ready to go to the United States on June 17th. But I had a little birthday party planned for her, and I just had a cake and just like ice cream and things. My daughter, she's 3. She got so excited. She went in the refrigerator, took the cake out, and it fell all over the floor. So we had no cake. And I was stressed out.
Oh.
I was so stressed and distraught. I'm like, what am I going to do? I invited these people over, and now
Right.
I don't have time to order a new cake. So I told my neighbor who I had invited, who only speaks Spanish, and I'm like,
Oh,
oh man, Susie, I don't think I can have the party because my daughter dropped the cake. And I sent her a picture of the cake, right? Do
yeah.
you know that she bought me a cake? She brought me balloons. She brought me
Yes.
string. She
What a
brought me
young.
Yes, my neighbor. And she was so kind to me. And I told her, I was like, you didn't have to do that. No, I wasn't asking. And she's like, I wanted to help you. It's okay. You're my
Yeah.
friend. Being able to have that group of people, especially as a
Mm,
mother, to help you when times are either overwhelming or if you feel
yeah.
depleted, just having people that you can lean on to help you. And that's how I do it, Francis. I use my tribe that I have here in Mexico. I
Yeah.
don't have my mom. I have two mothers. I have a stepmother and I have a biological mother.
Right.
And I have two fathers. I have a stepfather and a biological father.
Mm,
They're not here in Mexico with me, for me to lean on and depend on.
sure.
But the group of women that I've been able to just build relationship with, I depend on them, and we depend on each other.
I mean, the Bible really says it. Ask and it shall be given. I mean, this was tested and approved. Yeah. So yeah,
Absolutely.
right. So uh, you know, come to think of Africa, the motherland, right? Um, so, someone, in a conversation like this told me that, he thinks somehow that our culture does not really give us, that perspective on traveling. Because generally, growing up, it's like you are being guided to choose, any little chance you get to, move out of the house, you are being guided to choose it a little bit closer to home, where you wouldn't get to travel too far. So, I mean, yeah, it's coming from that kind of, I mean, being a victim of that kind of situation, I agree with you completely. So, like, how do you, uh, let me say, what words would you have for, let me say, some Africans seeing this on the perspective of how they can, bring out a traveler in them?
My biggest thing is to just do it. If you
Mm,
allow yourself to contemplate on all of the setbacks or the reservations that you have, then you'll never do it because you'll always think of something that stops you from traveling. Just do it. Like
mm,
once you do it one time, then it becomes addicting. And I
right.
think that's what my husband and I both experienced on separate occasions. Once I got
Mm,
a taste of leaving the US, when I left to go to Colombia, I came back to the US and I only stayed for 2 weeks. And in those 2 weeks, I was like, I have to get out of here.
oh,
Like for me, the country, it felt toxic, it felt draining, it felt
mm,
heavy once I would touch down there. I didn't feel too much of a connection. I'm like, I have to leave. Once you get a
right.
taste of what life is like somewhere else, it becomes addicting. Just like, as I said before, you will want more of it. For
Yeah.
those who whether you're in the diaspora, whether you're on or if you're on the continent, wherever you are, like if you are feeling like, oh, I want to travel, but this or that and this and that, just go. Just go. First, get your
Mm.
passport and go. Don't let anything stop you because guess what? If something goes wrong, just go back home. Just say, you know
Yeah.
what? I tried it, but I messed up. And at least you
Right.
will have it inside your heart to say, well, I tried my best, and it
So,
wasn't for me. As
mm,
opposed to always having the desire and having the regret and not
never
putting
try.
into it.
Right. Right. So, I mean, I've held you for quite a little time, and so before we part, I would like to, know where people can get your book, Merida and me, and probably you speak a little bit about that. Then, you give us some of the locations where we can get your book. I'm really sure it's a great book. I mean, having to document your travel experiences coupled with coaching people on how to, start abroad. It's a book that people should really look to read. Yeah. So a little bit on your book.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. So again, my book is called Merida and Me, and it
Mm,
talks about how my family of four at the time, we're a family of five now, but how my family of four and I relocated to Merida, Mexico. And it tells you some of the concerns I had. We talk about the salary that we have. We talked about some of the disagreements that my husband and I had trying to settle on a place. And those are some of some realities for some couples.
right.
Even it talks about how the hiccups that we had in
Yeah.
the road when we touched down in Mexico. We had a couple of things happen, but we stuck to it. Nothing deterred
Mm,
us to go back to the US, and we've been here for 2 years. So the book, you can find it on Gumroad. Gumroad is the platform that we're using to sell our website or to sell our book on. And then I
Right.
can, send you it as well.
Sure,
And it's
sure.
on Gumroad, and it's called Tia Savannah Casa on Gumroad, and you can find the book there. You can
Yeah.
also reach out to me if you have any questions about
Mm.
relocation. Again, I do give a complimentary consultation. And
Yeah.
I like for people to say, we feed off energy. I want you to see my energy. I want to feel your energy to see if we will vibe together. Like if we could do a planning session together, because
Right.
it is intense and it's going to take work on your part and mine as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then something from the book, my biggest thing in chapter 3 is finding your tribe. And that's so important to combat homesickness and loneliness abroad. Finding your tribe is so important. And what I
Right.
put in the book is, if you can't find your tribe, then you build your tribe. If
Right.
you don't see what you are looking for, if it's not
Got
available,
it.
then you create one. And I've seen so many people grow from creating their own areas, like a WhatsApp group. Even I've done it. I've
Mm.
created my own WhatsApp group, and it's grown. For people, for moms who want to travel and get away, like we have a
Right.
little group where we plan little excursions and things just for moms without the children. And there's other WhatsApp groups as well for kids. If you have like children that are teenagers or children
Mm.
that are newborns, there's specific groups, and I talk about all of that in the book. So I would say that's like one of the biggest takeaways is finding your tribe to combat that loneliness, to combat
Mm.
feeling like you're isolated. And in the book, chapter 3, it talks about finding your tribe and how to go about doing so.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's well, I wish to get a copy myself. Yeah.
Yes.
So I wish to see you in Tanzania one day. Hopefully. I
Yes.
mean, you just might never know, right? We could stumble upon each other when we are finally settled on, getting to Tanzania. So, yeah, it was really nice speaking with you, and I'm really grateful. So for all the links and to the book and your contacts as well, I would request that in your DM so that I would, make that known while I'm editing the video and all that. All right.
Absolutely.
So
Thank
yeah,
you so
and
much.
so after this, we'll probably, need to do some little bit of editing and all that for YouTube. So possibly I'll reach out to you if I need help on anything. Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, you look lovely though. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Francis. Like, yes,
Yeah. Also.
definitely reach out if you need anything else or have any questions or need
Yeah.
a retake or anything, just let me know. I'm
Yeah.
here. I
Yeah.
really appreciate you and Christina. You guys have just been so amazing to me.
Yeah.
I know you guys are so busy, and it was
Yeah.
such a refreshing. I was so happy to have the opportunity to meet with her.
Yeah. She's lovely. She's
While
lovely. Shout
I
out
was
to my Christina.
traveling.
Yeah. Yeah. So and let me say hi to your husband. He sounds like a great person, and your daughters as well.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. So I guess we would draw the curtains here. Then I'll leave you to it.
Yes, thank you
All
so
right.
much. I enjoyed
Welcome.
the opportunity, and
Sure.
I look forward to seeing you in Tanzania. We can
Oh
be
yes.
there
All right.
together.
So you have a
Have a good
beautiful day ahead. Bye.
thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.